facing an 85% failure rate during grueling 72-hour reconnaissance missions, and 122-degree heat elite snipers rely on a singular piece of tactical armor to stay alive. It is known as the Ghillie suit. How does this terrifyingly simple suit successfully defeat the planet's most sophisticated, multi-million-dollar thermal hunting technology? Let's decode the classified anatomy of the Ghillie suit and uncover the exact science of becoming truly invisible. 1,000 meters is the ultimate kill zone, where a compromised reconnaissance sniper faces a staggering 90% mortality rate within 3 seconds of initial enemy contact. To survive this brutal combat reality, elite operators forge a tactical invisibility cloak, known universally as the Ghillie suit. Welcome to the highly classified, elite U.S. Army sniper course. These extremely highly vetted students are not simply learning basic rifle marksmanship. They are actively mastering the dark art of tactical vanishing. The objective is never a cheap Hollywood illusion. It is achieving an absolute flawless environmental blending effect. To survive, a sniper must construct a specialized second skin entirely from scratch. Commercially manufactured camouflage suits can easily cost upwards of $400. However, elite Tier 1 special operations operators trust absolutely nothing except their own hands. The primary base layer always starts with a heavily worn standard issue military battle dress uniform. This foundational garment is constructed from an incredibly durable 50/50 NYCO ripstop fabric weave designed for extreme combat environments. This old uniform undergoes a radical surgical alteration process. The students ruthlessly cut away massive sections of the heavy cotton fabric. They meticulously sew in specialized, lightweight ventilation panels. This material is not cheap commercial mesh. It is ultra-tough, high-tensile, mil-spec 500D nylon mesh. This industrial-grade netting boasts a staggering breaking strength of exactly 150 pounds per square inch. It allows extreme body heat dissipation during agonizing prolonged missions. Simultaneously, it provides an unbreakable reinforced anchor point for the entire complex camouflage build. Do you honestly think a patched-up camo net, cut from an old uniform, can successfully bypass a sophisticated multi-thousand-dollar optical binocular system? The terrifying answer lies deep within the biological science of the human silhouette. The human brain is genetically hardwired to instantly recognize the distinct geometric shape of human shoulders and a rounded head. To effectively defeat this built-in biological radar sniper, students deploy a surprisingly primitive yet devastatingly effective tactical weapon: natural jute. Jute is an incredibly rough, fibrous, natural plant material. The students painstakingly strip hundreds of these thick, earthy strands by hand. They securely anchor them directly into the 500D nylon mesh using complex knots. This process is not merely adding fake hair to a tactical suit. This is highly applied optical physics. The densely layered jute acts as a complex, three-dimensional fractal canvas. It actively intercepts and bends incoming ambient light. It casts microscopic, totally irregular shadows that completely shatter the distinct biological outline of a human body. Watch the calloused hands of the students carefully. They knot, tie, and weave the rough jute fibers with absolute surgical precision. The visual transformation is both terrifying and beautiful. A breathing, sweating human being of flesh and bone systematically degrades into a lifeless, shapeless mass. He takes one single deliberate step back into the dappled shade of the deep Georgia pines. Within mere seconds, the operator simply ceases to exist within the visible spectrum. He becomes nothing more than a trick of the light, a phantom anomaly hiding seamlessly in the thick brush. This is the undisputed mastery of the unseen. If you appreciate this level of tactical depth, confirm your signal by gently hitting like and subscribe. More encrypted files await your decoding. The physical foundation is meticulously set. The calculated optical illusion is theoretically perfect. But how fragile is this self-made darkness? What exactly happens when it is violently thrown into the unforgiving hellfire of a real chaotic battlefield? The human body in kinetic motion is a friction-generating machine. During a standard tactical low crawl, a sniper presses his entire 180-pound body flat against the highly abrasive earth. Moving at a calculated, agonizing speed of mere inches per minute, the kinetic friction coefficient against crushed gravel spikes dramatically high. The tactical uniform violently drags against jagged rocks, sharp tree roots, and relentless grit. In this brutal biomechanical process, specific anatomical pivot points bear the absolute brunt of the massive kinetic load. The elbows, the armpits, and the crotch instantly become critical structural failure zones. A standard cotton-nylon blend simply cannot survive this sustained, high-tensile abrasion. The base fabric will inevitably shred under the immense lateral pressure exposing the operator. If your armor tears wide open in the middle of hostile enemy territory, just because a stray branch snagged it, what will you use to shield your life when the bullets start flying? There is absolutely no tactical resupply behind enemy lines. Therefore, preemptive structural reinforcement is an absolute, non-negotiable mandate for survival. Sniper students must surgically fortify these high-wear kinetic zones before they ever hit the dirt. They deploy specialized military-grade survival thread woven from pure para-aramid synthetic fibers. This is Kevlar-69, boasting an exceptional tensile breaking strength of over 30 pounds per single microscopic strand. It is 5 times stronger than steel on an equal weight basis, but thread alone is insufficient against the sheer tearing forces of a truly hostile environment. They heavily saturate the reinforced seams with industrial-grade polyurethane adhesives, specifically utilizing heavy-duty formulas like shoe goo. This creates an impenetrable, flexible, waterproof polymer matrix over the complex stitching. The highly vulnerable crotch and armpit seams are chemically bonded into localized flexible armor plating, engineered to withstand extreme physical punishment. Physical durability is only half the complex survival equation. The sniper must also conquer the unforgiving laws of natural optical geometry. In the chaotic organic canvas of deep nature, absolute straight lines simply do not exist anywhere. Perfect geometry is an exclusively human artificial fingerprint. An unbroken, perfectly straight 12-inch seam running down a shoulder blade is a massive optical anomaly. To a high-resolution thermal imaging camera or a stabilized multi-sensor electro-optical payload mounted on an advanced AH-64 Apache reconnaissance helicopter, a straight line is a glaring neon target. It violently screams artificiality. Therefore, every single customized ghillie suit requires relentless, meticulous structural modification. The students must deliberately break stagger and violently distort every continuous geometric contour of their uniform. They meticulously extend the jute netting over the rigid shoulder seams. They pull the frayed canvas fibers aggressively down the linear axis of the sleeves, ensuring that no distinct man-made shape remains visible to the naked eye or to electronic sensors. The absolute margin for tactical error is measured in microscopic increments. This is precisely where the elite instructors execute the grueling 360-degree structural inspection, a process designed to expose any weakness. The heavy atmosphere on the training ground thickens with suffocating, palpable tension. Veteran sniper instructors circle the students like apex predators analyzing highly vulnerable prey. Their heavily experienced, unforgiving eyes scan every single millimeter of the modified tactical gear. They violently tug at the polyurethane glued elbows to test the sheer tensile strength. They brutally stretch the Kevlar-stitched armpits. Then the inevitable structural failure suddenly occurs. The ambient air physically chills as a senior instructor halts abruptly behind a rigid, frozen student. His cold, highly analytical gaze locks onto the operator's exposed right shoulder. A brutal, silent tactical judgment violently falls upon the recruit. He points his rigid index finger at a perfectly straight, unaltered canvas seam, measuring exactly 4.5 inches long. It is a fatal, completely unforgivable geometric flaw, a microscopic structural error that would undoubtedly guide a devastating 30mm chain gun round directly to the operator's exact grid coordinates in a live combat scenario. The senior instructor's commanding voice is razor sharp. He fiercely orders the immediate aggressive extension of the jute matrix to permanently obliterate that suicidal straight line. The physical architecture of the advanced sniper suit is now flawlessly established. The fatal geometric anomalies are permanently erased from existence. The tactical armor is completely fortified against the immense kinetic friction of the battlefield. The heavy Kevlar threads and polyurethane adhesives are perfectly primed for sustained combat action. But to truly belong to the savage, wild nature, this artificial skin must undergo the most brutal cleansing ritual imaginable. The suit must bleed into the earth. Are you completely ready to taste the unforgiving mud? Week 2 at the United States Army Sniper Course initiates the highly infamous training event known strictly as the Ghillie Wash. This is absolutely not a standard laundry cycle or a simple gear check. It is a violently aggressive, highly specialized environmental conditioning protocol. The raw jute fibers and pristine cotton canvas are currently dangerously bright. In their factory state, these materials reflect an unacceptable 45% of ambient light, making them glowing beacons to enemy optics. To survive actual combat, elite operators must deliberately and violently degrade their gear into a permanent state of natural decay. Veteran instructors immediately order the exhausted recruits down onto the scorching, hot Georgia asphalt and jagged, unforgiving gravel. They execute painfully aggressive tactical low crawls, literally grinding their freshly modified suits directly into the abrasive earth. The newly applied industrial polyurethane adhesives and the heavy-duty Kevlar seams immediately face their very first catastrophic stress test under extreme body weight. Then comes the freezing water. Unforgiving instructors deliberately blast the recruits with high-pressure industrial hoses, completely saturating the dense, fibrous jute matrix. Right here, the brutal laws of physical science take absolute control. A dry, freshly modified tactical ghillie suit weighs approximately 8 to 10 pounds. However, once completely waterlogged, the highly porous natural plant fibers instantly absorb massive localized amounts of liquid mass. The tactical suit's weight violently and exponentially spikes to a staggering 35 to 40 pounds of dead, suffocating weight. This intense physical burden is practically equivalent to wearing a heavily soaked ballistic lead apron directly over your standard combat gear. Every single microscopic body movement now requires an exponential biomechanical energy expenditure from the operator. Operating strictly under this crushing 40-pound physical penalty, the true physiological torture officially begins. The senior instructors ruthlessly demand relentless continuous repetitions of deep squats, combat lunges, and explosive muscular push-ups. This specific exercise is not merely mindless physical hazing designed to break morale. It is a highly calculated, meticulously observed dynamic elasticity test. Human biological skin naturally stretches up to 15% during extreme joint articulation. The rigid combat fabric of the suit must dynamically mirror this exact biological expansion. If a single Kevlar stitched seam snaps under the immense tensile strain of a fully loaded 180-pound operator performing a rapid push-up in deep mud, the entire suit is fundamentally compromised. The exposed operator must immediately halt, retrieve their emergency sewing kit, and painfully repair the critical structural failure right there in the freezing mud. The final, most brutal stage plunges the operators directly into the notorious oxygen-deprived Georgia red clay. This highly specific regional soil is exceptionally rich in oxidized iron, scientifically classified as ferric oxide, or Fe2O3. This substance is not just basic dirt. It is a permanent molecular level natural chemical dye. The submicron iron particles aggressively penetrate deep into the microscopic cellular structure of the wet jute fibers. It permanently stains the tactical suit with an unbreakable earthy brown spectral signature. Furthermore, a dense dried layer of this specific iron-rich clay acts as a primitive, yet highly effective thermal insulator. It actively traps ambient biological body heat. It naturally absorbs incoming thermal radiation, brilliantly spoofing legacy infrared sensors and degrading the effective range of modern thermal optics by breaking up heat signatures. How long can you truly endure chewing thick, iron-tasting mud and crawling entirely under freezing water before your burning muscles scream in absolute surrender? The desperate recruits now face a terrifying, 200-foot-long, chest-deep water trench, completely filled with freezing, stagnant sludge. This is the ultimate physical crucible. The students roar loudly through tightly gritted teeth as they plunge their heavy bodies into the suffocating liquid. Their core body temperatures instantly plummet. Their lactic acid levels critically spike, threatening immediate catastrophic muscle failure. They violently claw through the thick, viscous mud. Their heavily waterlogged tactical suits drag behind them like massive steel anchors. The Kevlar threads audibly scream under the maximum tearing forces. They finally drag their exhausted bodies out of the muddy trench, desperately gasping for precious oxygen. The visual transformation is absolute and terrifying. The crisp, military-grade tactical fabric is entirely gone. In its place stand hulking, dripping swamp monsters, perfectly assimilated into the savage Georgian terrain. The suit is completely seasoned, heavily battered, and chemically bonded with the living earth itself. It is a true masterpiece of applied tactical fieldcraft. Water and mud have brutally forged the physical shell, but facing the most sophisticated manhunting machines on Earth, what tactical algorithms will they use to evaporate in broad daylight? The ultimate tactical validation of the ghillie suit is not surviving the mud. It is dominating the highly classified stalk event. This is a brutal live-action simulation of lethal evasion against apex predators. The veteran instructors deploy heavily fortified observation posts. They are equipped with multi-coded high-magnification, loopholed Mark IV tactical spotting scopes. These sophisticated optics can easily detect a misplaced shadow at a staggering distance of over 800 meters. To successfully defeat this highly magnified optical threat sniper, students must strictly execute the mathematically precise 30-70 vegetative camouflage algorithm. Exactly 30% of the optical illusion relies on the artificial jute base layer. The critical remaining 70% must be meticulously harvested natural foliage integrated directly from the immediate operational environment. In the sweltering 95-degree Georgian humidity standard, broadleaf vegetation dies and violently wilts within exactly 20 minutes of being cut. Dead leaves immediately reflect a distinct, highly unnatural spectral signature to trained eyes. Therefore, elite operators aggressively target specific, highly resilient local flora. They primarily utilize dense clusters of native longleaf pine needles. These rugged pine needles actively retain internal cellular moisture for up to a staggering 8 hours after being physically severed from the tree. This trapped internal moisture is not just visual camouflage. It acts as a microscopic thermal heat sink. It continuously regulates the operator's localized surface temperature. This brilliantly natural adaptation severely degrades the detection capabilities of incoming thermal sweeps, masking the sniper's 98.6-degree biological heat signature. Once successfully integrated into the dense tree line, the physical approach becomes agonizingly slow. Students employ extreme micro-movements to advance forward. They crawl at a staggering velocity of mere fractions of an inch per minute. At this incredibly low kinetic threshold, standard human physiology instantly becomes a massive tactical liability. The human heart aggressively pumps roughly 5 liters of blood per minute. If an operator's heart rate violently spikes above 100 beats per minute due to a massive adrenaline surge, the resultant biological micro-vibrations will literally shake the attached pine branches. To successfully counter this biological threat, Tier 1 snipers enforce ruthless biometric control. They actively down-regulate their autonomic nervous system. They deliberately drop their resting heart rate safely below a steady 60 beats per minute. They physically become cold-blooded reptiles silently crawling through the thick underbrush. A heavy enemy combat boot violently crushes a dry pine branch exactly 1 meter away from your exposed face. Do you dare to stop your biological breathing completely? The atmospheric tension violently peaks during the final tactical approach phase. A veteran instructor aggressively sweeping the primary sector abruptly stops walking. He slowly raises his high-resolution, loopholed optic. He locks the magnified crosshairs directly onto grid coordinate Alpha 7. The student is perfectly positioned there, barely 10 meters away. The instructor's highly trained eyes actively scan for the slightest geometric anomaly or biological movement. The operator lies completely paralyzed in the dirt. He forcefully clamps his biological airways shut. He executes an absolute zero respiration hold. A single, violently forced exhale would slightly move a localized branch. That microscopic movement means instant tactical failure and simulated death. The deafening silence violently stretches for 30 agonizing seconds. Finally, the instructor lowers his optic. The Phantom has successfully bypassed the radar. A meticulously constructed ghillie suit is an incredibly resilient combat asset. If an operator carefully replaces the naturally degrading jute fibers, the heavy Kevlar stitched base layers can survive an entire 20-year combat career. However, this reveals the most brutal truth of modern warfare. The suit itself is completely useless. It is absolutely not a magical cloaking device. The external armor does not make the sniper. The ultimate tactical weapon is the operator's iron discipline, their flawless mastery of optical geometry, and their chillingly silent heart rate. The ghillie suit is merely a physical tool. The human mind is the true instrument of absolute invisibility. If you are fully ready to master the brutal psychology of elite combat, acknowledge receipt of this classified transmission. Gently hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to secure your position in our highly exclusive tactical network.